the construction on this started in 1910. The Santa Fe and Union Pacific merged together and started the construction on this project. In 1910s, when it developed, it was tied to the stockyards. That was a big part of the drive to get the railhead here. There was a lot of benefits to that. You see the second growth of Amarillo once this started. It was a driving force. The ability to bring commerce into here and actually ship goods out of here, from agricultural goods to livestock goods, all came into place. Even cotton was shipped out of here at one time. So that was a big part of the railroad coming here to Amarillo. So here's the freight room. These are the original scales to the depot. Both of these scales are still fully operational. If you were a passenger leaving from Amarillo, you would come in here, weigh your baggage, your old steamer carts or anything. You'd come across these sets of scales and then straight out to the train. There's another baggage room on the other side, which was for commercial freight. And then the building off to the south is also a freight building where you had the agricultural freight. You know, when we looked at this facility originally, the city manager at the time asked us to come over and do an assessment of the property to see how sound the property was. One thing that became abundantly clear to us when we first looked at the facility was this was designed by railroad engineers. This facility has railroad ties and structural steel in here that's part of the railroad in the building itself. We've got walls as much as 3.5 feet thick. I think the shallowest wall we have is a foot thick. It's solid concrete throughout. As we've toured through, I think you've noticed we've had several big trains go by. You don't feel the motion. You hear the train, but you don't feel the motion inside the building. The building is structurally a phenomenal building as far as we're concerned. When you walk out into the area before they got onto the train, originally these glassed-in areas were not here. These were just big open arches. So we had natural airflow that would come through here. So you would see benches and stuff sitting out here while you're waiting to get on the train. Here's where the conductor would be stationed in this little outbuilding here. He actually had a speaker system tied back into the ticket window and throughout the facility. All aboard would be what you would hear. We've got some great pieces here in the facility. When we bought it from Mr. Gorey was gracious enough to leave some of this stuff because he knew we would protect it, salvage it, and take care of it. We've got an original door from 1910 that was in here. It's a critical piece to our facility. We have some of the original stained glass here. We have the original telegraph, the original conductor's cap and jacket. We still have that. We have some of the original drawings to this facility, and not only this facility, but Mr. Gorey left us some artwork and some drawings for other Santa Fe facilities as well. He was really cognizant of maintaining the historical value of this property, and it shows when we tour through here. When we come out into the main lobby, of course, the ticket window, this is original. One of the neat things when you look at this is you see where your ticket windows are. You actually have toe kicks. The counters are actually made out of Bakelite. Bakelite has not been used for counter manufacturing for years. 1960s is the last time they were done. On the murals, you see the three main stops of the Santa Fe line in the Union Pacific. Originated in Chicago, that was the hub for all rail traffic, was actually out of Chicago at the time. The next stop was the Grand Canyon as far as a major stop, and then ended in the Napa Valley. And that's why you see those three represented here. And let's walk around inside and we'll show you some of the millwork that's original that you won't see just about any place else. Here's your change drawers, the dished out wood. This was the dining area, and this was kind of your upper class dining area. An exterior area and an interior area. Where we're walking into now is the grand ballroom. This ballroom would have been used for multiple functions. If you kind of go back in your memory and you think about the time and the period that this was created, you could have seen owners from XIT and the 4-6s ranches or the LS ranch riding up here to cut a deal with the Chicago broker to buy beef that goes back into the Midwest. Those kind of deals would have been cut in this area. When you walk out here, this was actually a covered porch. It wasn't enclosed at the time that it was built. As we go down into the basement, understand this is where the original secretarial pool worked. So as you see these offices and spaces down here, understand if you came to work for the railroad every day, down here's where you went to work. This is the boiler room. And so the hydronic heat for the building would have been done here. And if you look at the nameplates on these, you can see the original manufacturers from some of these boilers. They literally had to jackhammer this concrete out just to be able to get the boilers out. This tunnel actually connects to a building that the Santa Fe Depot owned on the other side of the tracks. So this tunnel actually goes all the way across the tracks. It has since been blocked off, but you can imagine the steam heat from here actually heated that building across the tracks. So if you were coming to the Harvey House and you came up the stairs here to go to the Harvey House, this would have been where you dropped off your coach, you got a ticket for your coats, and then you walked into the actual Harvey area. The Harvey's hotels were known for their fine dining. This would have been their dining area. They had their own kitchen here, but this would have been where if you came to get a meal at the Harvey House, this is where you came. There's another stairwell that comes up into here as well. Now the Harvey girls, like I said, they had to be segregated from their customers. So their dormitories are actually back here. The dormitory set for the girls, this would have been between 6 and 8 girls were in here. The same over here across the hall on these 2 end rooms.
To the absolute perfection in the way we feed the trains.
Perfection in the dining room, perfection in the dorm. We even want perfection in the Harvey uniform. Stout black shoes to keep a sense of humor. Please confine your underwear to camisole and rumor. Black shirt waist, cuffs neat and trim. The apron must be spotless from the collar to the hem.
The apron must be spotless and must have the proper swirl. That's the first requirement of a Harvey girl.
They couldn't be a temptation to their customer. Of course, you had your headmistress or 2. This would have been one of the headmistress's room. The Harvey girls had to have a separate entrance so that they didn't commingle with the passengers. Harvey houses are enormous. There's one still active that we're aware of. They're in Arizona at the Grand Canyon. But there's other ones that have gone through some historical renovations as well. Their uses vary quite a bit. Once again, keep in mind the period. Amarillo only had at the time that the railroad was built, there was maybe 15,000 people living in Amarillo at the time. And so the view from here, you saw it all. So as we go down the hallway here, these would have all been hotel rooms. Here is one of the original suites. But you can imagine a cattle baron, he can get whatever he wants. And so can that big Chicago buyer that comes down here. There's 2 suites up here of this size, and then the rest of them is pretty much normal rooms. When I look at the old construction versus the new construction, the classic workmanship and architectural work is very impressive. Downtown Amarillo is truly becoming landlocked, so the ability to develop and do things here in Amarillo, it was a critical piece for us to be able to purchase it and control. We utilize the facility a lot when we have the World Finals Rodeo, Ranch Rodeo here. You'll see livestock all out in the front parking lot here of this facility actually setting up for the rodeo. It is part of the bond project, and so the Civic Center would run it and maintain it after we actually do the remodeling of the facility.
How is it being viewed as a part, if that Civic Center bond passes, how is it being viewed as a part of the facilities?
At that point in time, if the city develops it and we bring this thing up to spec. We'll be ADA accessible, we'll have heating and cooling in here, but we're always going to maintain the historic look and feel to the facilities.
What is it envisioned being used for?
You know, there's been a lot of conversations that there would be a smaller museum in here potentially. There could also be a restaurant in here. There's even been talk about different things being developed with the Harvey House upstairs. That could actually become a museum if the city does it, or it could be a B&B if a private entity was to lease out the facility. There's lots of different opportunities. This structure is such a major part of the history, not only of Amarillo, but really of the United States because of our location on Route 66 and the fact that really the railroad, Route 66 kind of followed the railroad. The railroad is the one that blazed the trail, and Route 66 followed it. A lot of the historical components of this facility are really engaging to other people throughout the country and throughout the world, quite frankly. It was such an important piece of our history. The community loves it. I know that there's a lot of people when we've done tours throughout the facility, that they have a lot of memories of this place.